It appears that we now have a new president coming in, so it is only appropriate that we offer some presidential advice. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad from Project Eli, where we educate, lead, and inspire. And I came across some quotes from some former presidents and Benjamin Franklin, who wasn't a president, but I think we can insert him in there. Anyway, let's get some advice not only to the president, but also to we who are his constituents. The first bit of advice does not come from an American president. It comes from Nelson Mandela. And I mention this is for leadership, not just presidential leadership, but leadership in general. A leader without passion and enthusiasm lacks credibility. It's so critical as the leader to grasp, embrace the message and express it with enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is contagious. Remember, the last four letters of the word enthusiasm, IASM, stand for I am sold myself. Next one from President Lincoln. Folks are usually about as happy as they make up their minds to be. We've talked about that many times on this channel. When you wake up in the morning, one of the things I always talk about is giving yourself some quiet thinking time to get your mindset straight. You will decide whether you're happy or whether you're not happy. It's a personal decision. Too many people let the circumstances around them determine how they're going to feel for that day. When you get your mind straight, when you focus on your objectives and you see yourself accomplishing them, you can't be anything but positive. And people are attracted to positive people, and positive people get more done. Always bear in mind that your resolution to succeed is more important than any other one thing. Also Abraham Lincoln, talking about singleness of purpose, and that once you decide that you will not be denied and that a roadblock is just a bump in the road and not something that is going to completely stop you from achieving your goal, that's how goals become achieved. Because every single goal that you want to achieve that is worthwhile is going to be plagued with potholes. John Adams, to believe all men honest is folly. To believe none is something worse. This is a situation you have to make, as a leader, you have to make judgments, and you have to understand that the people that you work with are not all the time going to be honest. But what's even worse than that, than not trusting anybody, is not trusting anybody. And to blanket as an example to say that all the news media organizations are this and they're all, everything is not a conspiracy theory. And we've got to get out of that mindset. You know, we've been plagued with, 9/11, and we've been plagued with, other things like that. But you can't say that everything is a conspiracy. There are some people out there, believe it or not, that are just honest, good, hardworking people. To announce that there must be no criticism of the president, or that we are to stand by the president, right or wrong, is not only unpatriotic and servile, but is morally treasonable to the American public. This is foundational for the American system. We've got to have opposing points of view. The founding fathers set it up so that we would have different factions, and these factions would be heard. However, we must also be careful to not be so passionate that well, it's good to be passionate, but it's not good to be passionate against somebody as an individual just because they're an individual. So everything that a Republican says, a Democrat says, that's not good, and vice versa. This is not the way it should be. The way it should be is we need to listen, and we need to point out opposing points of view and logically come to a conclusion that we can all agree upon, but we must be decisive and make a decision. And in your business, the same thing applies when you have, different folks from different departments offering their points of view. You know, in the sales game, we would have, you know, people in the sales department that wanted a great deal of freedom, and people in the compliance department that would say, well, you can't really do this, you can't really do that. And it's kind of a difficult compromise scenario for the leader to go between the people that are looking to adhere to all the little rules that need to be followed versus the people that want to be creative and get something done. And I'm not saying that people that follow the rules don't get something done, but the point is sometimes they clash. And so we need to come to a compromise that we can both accept and respect. That's true in today's times especially. Glass, china, and reputation are easily cracked and never well mended. By the way, that previous quote was from Teddy Roosevelt. This particular quote is from Benjamin Franklin. And as a leader, your credibility is everything. Your reputation is everything. When you say one thing that is not true, then every other thing you say after that comes into question. Have we seen that with anyone in particular in the White House lately? As soon as you say one thing that's not true, then everything you say comes into question. Why should we believe it? It makes no sense to me that people, you know, a large majority of people say, well, when the vaccine comes, I'm not going to take it. Why? Because the guy that was talking about it was saying, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and so on and so forth. And the things were not believable. They were not true. They were not accurate. It's important as a leader, Mr. Biden, that you keep your credibility, you be transparent, and you give us the truth. And yes, we can take it. Many people die at 25 and are not buried until they're 75. Benjamin Franklin, once again. So many times people go through life, younger people, they have their education, they're disciplined, they go to, to school, then they go to college, and then what happens is they stop their learning, they stop their curiosity. They get into a comfort zone, into a treadmill, and they never get off that treadmill their entire life. I plead with you that are younger people, do not fall into that trap. It's very easy to do, and frankly, there are more people that do that than remain curious. Education is a lifelong objective. Keep your curiosity. Don't be a get off of my lawn guy. I try that, and it's difficult. It's difficult. But continue your education, continue your curiosity. That's what makes life exciting, isn't it? When you're learning new things, when you have new passions. It is the first responsibility of every citizen to question authority. Once again, Benjamin Franklin. Once again, a cornerstone for the Constitution, which is our game plan. Does that make sense? It's the country's game plan. That's what we do, and we can adjust it, but always make sure that you don't do things just because it's always been done that way. Make sure there's a good reason for doing it. If freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led like sheep to the slaughter. You've got to keep, when you have something to say of substance that's worthwhile, where you have evidence, you must express it. You must express it. That's why there's such a great importance on the freedom of the press. The press cannot be oppressed. They must be able to speak out, because that is the way the truth gets told. And otherwise, if we just follow blindly, we will be led like sheep to the slaughter. That was from George Washington. Also from George Washington, it is better to offer no excuse than a bad one. People are very creative, and one of the basic rules of success is that people will be creative either in accomplishing their goal or with coming up for an excuse why they couldn't accomplish their goal. So let's use our creativity to accomplish goals, because quite frankly, people aren't really all that interested in your excuses. Am I right on that? Now, there was recently a quote by Joe Biden, which he didn't make up, because I've used it here on this program many, many times when talking about leadership, and that the best way to lead is to lead by the power of your example and not by an example of your power. Leaders lead by example. That's why, in my very humble opinion, we're somewhat in this scenario of over 100,000 new cases every day, because leadership refused to embrace and get behind the science of wearing masks. It went on for so long, it was political baloney, all right? There's no other way to say it. What was the purpose in doing that? I mean, don't let pride get in the way of your pocketbook. Put on a mask! And that's not the only example. So don't let pride get in the way of your pocketbook. Lead by the power of your example and not by the example of your power. And when I was a kid, one of the things I always vowed to myself, that my dad would say to me very, very often, I'd say, why do I have to do that? Because I said so, that's why. I vowed to myself that I would never say that to you, Eli, and I never have. So lead by the power of your example. And finally, I want to talk about the fact that it is a time to heal. And heal has many different meanings in what I want to discuss with you right now. First of all, we want to bind up the nation's wounds. We want to get together. We don't want to be divisive. We want to work together to get things solved. We are facing a time of crisis, both health-wise, financially, and also mindset-wise in this country. It's time to heal those wounds. That's an important thing. It's also, of course, time to emphasize to heal us from this pandemic. It's time to take the actions that we need to take, and using a different spelling of the word heal. When you talk about a dog as an example, you say heal, and it's also come on to take the meaning of crushing oppressive or tyrannical power. And may I suggest to you that this pandemic is a crushing and oppressive tyrannical power, and we must heal to it. We must crush it, and the way that we're going to crush it is to acknowledge it, become vigilant in a united way, and make our actions of wearing masks, of social distancing, of washing hands, of all of the things that we need to do to make that a patriotic endeavor. That's the way that we're going to solve this. That's the way other countries solve it. It comes down from the top, and the leaders led by example, and it was patriotic for them. Now, we've run into a scenario where, especially over in Europe, where they had everything pretty much under control, and then they got complacent. And becoming complacent, it was able to build itself back up again. Well, we were never even in that position when we had it under control. You saw that it works. You saw in New York City that it works. And once again, people become complacent after a while. We can't become complacent until we get these numbers down to a minute level where we can effectively trace. So we want to heal the nation's wounds, both financially, physically, and mentally. And because we will never end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's get out there and take charge. I'm Eli's dad.